Hello, scholars. This is the professor speaking, and I welcome you to Hi, That's Scary, a podcast that utilizes cannabis to analyze horror cinema. The title of today's lecture is How Communication, Love, and Empathy Can Defeat Evil. Today we will be discussing Day of the Dead, a 1985 film that was the third installment of the Night of the Living Dead series. The film stars Lori Cardille as Sarah, Joseph Pilato as Rhodes, Terry Alexander as John, and Jarlath Conroy as Bill. The film was written and directed by George A. Romero. The strain used for this analysis is a combination of Sweet Insanity Wax and Purple Trainwreck Crumble. Both strains have effects on creativity and focus. Let's get to some background about this film. I didn't have much experience with Romero's Night of the Living Dead series. I saw the original first film when I was about 12. I wasn't a big zombie person. That's not to say I didn't like zombies, because I did, and I do. They're great monsters, and generally zombie films have some awesome commentary in them. My viewing habits for zombie media was more, if it was on or available on demand, I'll watch it, but that didn't necessarily mean I'd go and seek it out. Zombies aren't the thing that grabs my attention the most. That part of my lizard brain goes to slashers. But having Shaun of the Dead and Resident Evil released during my formative years led to zombies holding a little place in my heart. The most I had seen of Day of the Dead were the gifts of the opening dream sequence with the hands shooting out of the wall, and of Rhodes screaming at the zombie horde in the doorway. I was basically going into this entirely blind. I had no idea of what the plot was, nothing. All I knew about was that there was a woman, a man, and some zombies. George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead series began with the film of the same name being released in 1968. The film had a whopping budget of a paperclip, pocket lint, and duct tape. You'd think I'm kidding, but really, they made that movie with $114,000 according to Wikipedia. It made $30 million. Which means, ka-ching ka-ching, sequels with higher budgets. By the time we reach this film, they're spending $3.5 to $4 million. Romero uses that budget. He creates this wonderful commentary on the United States military, racism, toxic masculinity, and communication. From a budget of nothing to millions, Romero used his platform, used these creatures, to give a glimpse into the lives and experiences of different types of people and the different challenges they face. I have the summary here pulled from Tubi, where I had the pleasure of watching this. In the wake of a zombie apocalypse, scientists, military personnel, and civilians attempt to maintain order despite differing plans. I think this is one of the best summaries I've ever read. Short, sweet, to the point, and doesn't really give anything away. Now, I will be giving everything away, because it's analysis time. We open with a woman, Sarah, sitting on the dirty floor of a white room. She gets up and walks over to a calendar on the wall. Suddenly, dozens of arms shoot out. Sarah turns away from them dramatically. Sarah awakens from her nightmare on a helicopter. She, a scientist, Miguel, a soldier, John, the pilot, and Bill, the radio technician, are flying up and down the coast, sending out radio broadcasts to try to locate survivors. Sarah insists on touching down despite Bill and John's protests. John agrees to land, but he and Bill refuse to exit, saying that he'll keep the chopper running and he'll leave at the first sign of trouble. Sarah looks upset with him, but says nothing. Only Sarah and Miguel exit the chopper. Dollar bills are blowing around in the street, a visual representation of how easily money can lose value. The city, the largest in 150 miles according to Sarah, is completely infested. Sarah and Miguel look desperately for survivors as Bill attempts to get the attention of the living via speakers. Upon realizing there is no one left to save, and a horde slowly walking towards them, Miguel flees to the chopper. Sarah just stands there, staring at the undead. This sets a precedent for these characters. Sarah looks danger in the face, while Miguel runs for his life. Both of these reactions are understandable considering the circumstances. Both of these reactions have their own consequences, though. When the group return to their underground hideaway, they are met by 2 soldiers that were standing guard. A large horde of zombies are pressed against the fence that's around the perimeter of their space. The soldiers go to put gas in the helicopter. John mentions it's down to fumes, when Sarah stops them. She orders the pair to gas up at night when the zombies can't see them. When John argues with this, citing safety concerns, she scolds him by saying the zombies are aware of activity above and it riles them up. This is a horror movie, and the helicopter is being left on empty to hopefully be filled later. My foreshadowing bells were ringing. Sarah notices Miguel is still in the helicopter and tries to get him to come out. She then starts to dote on him a bit, asking him to let her help him and trying to grab his bag. Miguel rips the bag from her, saying he's just tired. When Sarah prods him further, he snaps at her. Miguel tells Sarah, mockingly, that he's not as strong as her, that no one is. Miguel pushes past her to go underground. I'm saying this now, Sarah radiates top energy. All she wants to do is be this rough and tough badass scientist that also puts on band-aids and kisses boo-boos. It's great. As Sarah and John walk to the lift that will bring them underground, they have a chat. Major Cooper, the highest-ranking officer there, died that morning and was buried. Sarah speculates that this is why the zombies were so active. John challenges this, asking Sarah what's going to rile them up the next day. They argue, John asking Sarah what was the point of doing all the things they were doing, and Sarah asking what alternatives he had thought of out of anger. John tells her that they should gas the chopper up and try to find a deserted island to live out the end of existence. Sarah seems disgusted by this. She doesn't want to give up on humanity. John just wants to live out the rest of his life in peace. The group head underground, the lift lowering and doors closing over the opening. They head into the tunnels. 2 soldiers in a motorized cart come up to Sarah and Miguel. One soldier, Steele, orders Miguel to come with them. Sarah tries to keep Miguel from going, saying he had been up for 24 hours. Steele tells her there's no one else. All of these people are overworked. The other soldier, Rickles, tells them they need to grab 2 more zombies. Sarah tells them they can't go by themselves, silently asking John and Bill to go. The pair turn and keep walking. Sarah angrily shouts that she'll go. Miguel insists on going when the 2 soldiers ask why he can't. He doesn't want to look weak in front of the other men. He's hostile with Sarah, angry at her for doting on him as she does. The 4 of them arrive at a section of tunnel that is fenced off with wooden platforms. Sarah fusses over zombie catching logs, essentially calling Rickles dumb for constantly forgetting. He doesn't care and clearly doesn't respect her. It's obvious that she's had to have this conversation with them multiple times, so I feel that it's going from genuine forgetfulness to intentional disrespect. Steele calls the zombies to come so they can collect 2 of them for Dr. Logan to experiment on. They take a while to appear, and Rickles jokes that they must be scared. Sarah agrees, saying they're learning in a patronizing tone. Steele and Rickles then exchange sexually crude remarks. Miguel goes to climb the platform to assist Steele when he drops the pole used to grab the zombies. Sarah tries to take his place, citing his exhaustion. Steele refuses to allow her because he's sexist. She's done it multiple times, but he insists she's not strong enough. They lure a zombie into the wooden trap, Miguel holding onto it with the pole. They let that one out of the corral to grab another. Sarah is proven right when Miguel loses his grip and drops the pole again. The zombie goes after Rickles, but Sarah grabs the pole before it's able to touch him. Steele gets very angry at Miguel. He screams in his face and holds him over the zombie still caught in the wooden corral. Sarah tells Steele he can't blame Miguel when she told him he shouldn't be doing that task. Steele ignores her and calls Miguel a racial slur. Sarah has to threaten to shoot Steele to get him to release Miguel. Steele complies, throwing Miguel off the platform. Rickles and Steele take the captured zombies to the lab and chain them to the wall, taunting them as they leave. The zombies look distressed by their capture. They almost seem scared. It makes sense. They've presumably been captured to be taken apart. There's a misconception that zombies are just brainless husks that do nothing but lurch and eat. That isn't the case here. They can understand they're in danger. Sarah attempts to sedate Miguel, but he snatches and throws the syringe from her. He tells her that she made him feel like a piece of shit and look like an asshole in front of the other men. Toxic masculinity rearing its head. Miguel doesn't want to be made fun of for showing weakness, but his refusal to acknowledge he needs a break is putting others in jeopardy. Sarah advances on Miguel with another syringe, and he slaps her, twice. He immediately, apparently, feels bad about it, and cries while hugging Sarah. These two are dating, so this just feels like really abusive behavior. He hits her and then cries on her for sympathy. He's blaming her for making him feel bad, instead of blaming Steele and Rickles for being assholes. He doesn't want to blame the other men, and he doesn't want to seem weak. He tries to establish dominance with those slaps, and Sarah just stands there looking at him, not backing down. When that tactic doesn't work, he cries. It's manipulative. Sarah takes this moment while he's busy blubbering to stab him with the needle. Miguel pushes her away, feeling betrayed. He calls her a bitch, and then curls up on her bed. That's right, her bed, in her private room. I want to have sympathy for Miguel, I really do. He obviously is not able to handle this situation, but physically and verbally attacking Sarah puts him on my shit list. He's misdirecting his anger and using it to abuse the one person that's looking out for his well-being. And he puts his dirty, germy, zombie boots on her bed. Why are you wearing shoes on the bed? It's just not cool with me, scholars. Sarah goes to the mess area to see Rhodes. Rhodes, Steele, Rickles, and another scientist, Dr. Fisher, are there. Fisher and Rhodes are discussing accommodations. Fisher is asking for procedures to be followed, and Rhodes shoots him down, telling him to work with what he's got. Fisher pushes, saying that Major Cooper had made promises, so Rhodes reminds him that Cooper is dead, and that he was in charge now. Sarah goes up to them and tells Rhodes that Miguel needs to be evaluated and pulled from duty. Rhodes refuses. Steele makes more racist jokes as Rhodes threatens to lock Miguel up. He then makes an implication that he would sexually assault Sarah. She's visibly disturbed and angry at this, justifiably so. Rhodes hasn't even been in power for a full day, and he's already letting it go to his head. Sarah and Fisher leave, Rhodes telling them to return at 7 for a mandatory meeting. Sarah informs him that Miguel has been sedated, to which Rhodes yells at her about, telling her they're short on manpower and not sedating people without his orders. Sarah agrees to comply, adding a nice "fuck you" to her exit. Fisher and Sarah meet with Dr. Logan. On the way, Fisher asks Sarah to be careful, as Rhodes is impossible to try to get to see logic. They find Logan covered in blood, surrounded by bodies on gurneys, and dictating his findings into a tape recorder. He doesn't realize Sarah and Fisher are there until a chained-up zombie comes behind Sarah, causing her to yelp. Logan tells him of his discoveries, that the zombies don't feed for nutritional reasons. They eat due to instinct. He shows Sarah another experiment, a body without a face or most of its head, only a brain and spine left behind. Sarah is horrified. Logan ignores her discomfort. He has dark bags under his eyes he must have been working without stopping for days. He tells her how it is likely possible to domesticate the zombies. Logan wants to train them to be of use for society instead of the burden they currently are. Sarah challenges Logan, calling out his improper scientific methods, wasting of time and resources, and the growing hostility of the army. Logan insists he'll convince the army to continue cooperating by showing that the zombies could be domesticated without the need for surgical intervention. Sarah realizes the brain body without a face is Major Cooper due to his uniform being nearby. Logan confirms her suspicions, saying he needed him. Logan is clearly going a bit mad. He's decided there's no point in trying to figure out why the dead are rising, he wants to figure out how to fix it now, not backtrack. He's willing to throw ethics out the window to do so. Cooper and his men did not consent to donating his body to science. Given the situation, though, is it justifiable? To Logan, yes. Very much yes. But not to Sarah. Sarah is panicking. She's worried what the army will do to them if they find out Logan is stealing their dead. A strapped-down zombie breaks its restraints, its insides plopping outside. Sarah retches as Logan kills the creature. The zombie that's chained to the wall sees the carnage and backs away, looking scared, showing more of the idea that the zombies are able to feel fear. At the meeting, Steele and Bill argue. Steele criticizes Bill's alcohol consumption, which Bill defends along with his work contribution. Steele disagrees. Sarah, tired of the bickering, goes to leave when she's stopped by Rhodes. He goes on a power trip, only not wanting her to leave because it wasn't his idea first and he didn't give her permission. Sarah recognizes this bullshit and is still about to leave when Rhodes tells Steele to shoot her. Because he's Army, he firmly believes that he has rank over the scientists, when that's not how this works. There are civilians, scientists, and Army personnel down there. Once contact with Washington ceased, one person from each of these groups should have been chosen to form a small committee so they can all ensure fair treatment of each group. But this is the United States military, so that isn't happening. The Army decides they are in charge because they have the numbers, the guns, and their country's entire military history to back them up. Steele and the other men believe Rhodes is joking at first. That is, until he points a gun at Steele, saying to shoot Sarah or he'd shoot him. Even the men are surprised. Rhodes doesn't just want to have power over the scientists. He wants all of the power. Once again, Rhodes is the human embodiment of the elitism, imperialism, and violence of the United States military. Sarah only sits down when aim is placed on John, who tries to defend her. Rhodes continues his tirade, berating the group. Fisher reminds Rhodes that he's supposed to be assisting the scientists, to which Rhodes fights back against. He wants to put down all the zombies. Logan takes this moment to make himself known by pointing out that the military didn't have enough ammo to kill all the zombies. Rhodes is angry and threatens him with the destruction of the experiments and abandonment, but Logan doesn't care. He tells Rhodes that there is nowhere he could go. He tells him zombies can be controlled. Rhodes wants evidence that the average person can understand. Logan tries to give a timeline, which Sarah interrupts. Logan points out that Sarah is looking for a cure with inadequate equipment. Rhodes explodes at the dwindling supplies and men, angry at the request for more. He threatens to leave some more before conceding, slightly. He gives the scientist a limited, but still unknown, amount of time to continue working, threatening to kill anyone that challenges him. After the meeting gets out, Sarah, Fisher, John, and Bill stop in the hallway to discuss what just happened. John reminds them he is safe from Rhodes' wrath because he's the only one that knows how to fly the helicopter. Bill is safe because he's the radio guy. Logan is likely safe due to his persuasive way of speaking. Everyone else, though, is fair game. He warns Sarah to keep that in mind. Sarah is back in her room when Miguel awakens. They argue again, Miguel telling her she's full of shit and breaking up with her. Sarah yells at him and kicks him out of her room. Miguel gets angry at this, even though he just broke up with her, grabs his gun and leaves. Sarah slams the door behind him. This is one of those things that make me not like Miguel even more. Like, I guess I understand breaking up, considering Sarah isn't respecting his boundaries, but at the end of the day, she's also his doctor, and she has to put his health above both of their feelings. He wants to be all cranky at her for kicking him out after he's the one that ended the relationship. He's angry that she's not crying and begging for him back. Sarah decides to leave her room and passes by right as a fight breaks out between the soldiers. Bill helps her pass through the tussle safely. Bill takes her to the home he and John share, which he refers to as the Ritz. When they arrive, the inside of the trailer looks like it's straight out of Better Homes and Gardens. They have a framed picture that says, "God bless our home." They have candles, flowers, paintings. I started to wonder if they were together, as this whole setup looks very domestic. Bill brings Sarah to the fenced-in backyard. They sit and drink, and John prods her to find out what her issues are. Sarah voices her frustration that John and Bill aren't helping out more. John tells her they're doing their jobs, but nothing more than that. It's understandable. He didn't sign up for this gig to have to wrangle zombies. He and Bill came there to fly the chopper and work the radio. John takes Sarah's anger and frustration in stride, though, and doesn't get riled up. He just plainly says that he doesn't believe in the work. He tries to convince Sarah to stop looking for a cure. He wants to try to start a new civilization, try to find some more people, have children. To me, this sounds like a proposition. Hear me out. John is proposing a throuple. He and Bill are poly, and they want to live out domestic bliss, all three of them, on a beach. John also tells Sarah that he thinks all of this is happening as a punishment from God. A punishment for, essentially, curiosity about the world around us. John thinks God is pulling a power move. Later, we see Sarah working in the lab. She looks like she's getting one of those exhaustion headaches that anyone that has ever had to stay up for finals will know about so well. She fusses over other people needing rest, but she does too. She doesn't have time to rest, not with Rhodes breathing down their necks. Sarah looks frustrated at her equipment and leaves to grab either Tylenol or ibuprofen. While taking her meds, she spots Fisher working with a zombie who is thrashing about. The army gives the scientists a canned meat slop to feed the experiments, and they do not like it. Sarah ponders the point of studying them, John's words from their discussion starting to sway her previous opinions. Logan emerges from somewhere to tell Sarah that the goal was to socialize the zombies the way they had been when they were children. Logan, Fisher, and Sarah go to leave when the zombie flips over the gurney in front of him, shouting he doesn't want them to leave. Logan reprimands the zombie and shuts off the lights as punishment. Once the lights are off, the zombie's shouts have quieted to grumbles. He's not as animated and looks bothered by being left alone in the dark, like a child afraid of the monsters in their closet. Logan leads Sarah and Fisher to another room that contains another zombie. Logan has named him Bub. Bub has been making good progress according to Logan. Logan is very excited to show Sarah and Fisher Bub's capabilities. He gives Bub a toothbrush, a razor, and a copy of Salem's Lot by Stephen King. Bub throws the toothbrush, uses the razor, and eventually figures out how to open and simulate reading the book. Logan is practically jumping out of his skin. He keeps repeating that Bub remembers doing these things. It's a muscle memory. As Logan praises Bub, Fisher wonders why Logan is doing this, saying how he witnessed zombies trying to drive, but that didn't mean he thought they could be trained to be safe. Sarah points out the fact that Bub doesn't get excited by Logan and doesn't see him as food. Rhodes takes this moment to try to ruin the fun by existing. He and Steele enter the lab and Rhodes questions Logan. Logan invites them all to watch Bub's abilities. Logan hands Bub a phone, which Bub eventually raises to his ear. Logan tells him to say, "Hello, Aunt Alicia." Bub mimics the sentence with grunts. No firm dictation, but it's there. Rhodes looks utterly disturbed and drops his clipboard. Bub is startled and drops the phone. He examines Rhodes before standing straight and saluting him, recognizing him as an officer, remembering a possible military background from the before times. Logan tries to get Rhodes to participate in the experiment and return the salute, to which Rhodes refuses, disgusted. Logan admonishes him while asking Sarah for her pistol, minus the bullets. He salutes Bub back before handing Bub the gun. Bub figures out how to hold, aim at Rhodes, and shoot the weapon. Rhodes goes to fire in retaliation before Logan intervenes. Out of the lab and back in the mess area, Rhodes yells at the scientists. He doesn't want to train the zombies. He wants them to be dead and no longer eating them. Logan insists on the ability to domesticate the zombies. He tells Rhodes that they have to act civil with them in order for any training to work. If they aren't civil, then attempting to preserve society will have been worthless. Civility is one of the only things separating humans from animals, and thus, when it presents in the zombies, it needs to be rewarded. Rewarding the zombies for exhibiting human behaviors will condition them to repeat those behaviors for rewards. It's the same as training a dog. We jump to Steele, Sarah, Miguel, and 2 other soldiers trying to collect zombies at the wooden corral. Steele hands Miguel the pole after ensuring he won't drop it. The zombie flails about, and eventually the collar holding it breaks. The zombie attacks one of the soldiers, who shoots the other while trying to aim at the zombie attacking him. Miguel attempts to fight one of the zombies and is bitten. When Sarah goes to check out the bite, he flees down the tunnels. Steele puts down the soldier that was attacked. Miguel runs all the way to the Ritz. John, Bill, and Sarah manage to subdue him, hitting him on the head, removing and then cauterizing his arm. The sounds of Rhodes, Steele, and Rickles approaching cause Bill and John to prepare for a fight. The 3 army men approach, guns ready to fire, wanting to shoot Miguel for being bitten and blaming him for the death of the 2 soldiers. The strap broke. Miguel didn't let go. It was a legit accident, but they don't care. Sarah stays in front of Miguel, acting as a human shield. She insists on letting him live, and if he turns, she'll kill him herself. Rhodes agrees, letting them know he'd be exterminating all the zombies tomorrow, and refusing to help the scientists any longer. Rhodes and Rickles start to walk away. Steele keeps his gun aimed at Sarah. Rhodes eventually gets him to leave. Once the men are gone and Sarah's life is not in imminent danger, John goes over to her to see if she's okay. He gently holds her and is genuinely concerned. Sarah finally succumbs to the stress and trauma she's faced. She cries into John, who tries his best to soothe her. The trio manage to get Miguel inside the trailer and bandaged up. He is awake but looks to be in shock and possibly running a fever. Sarah wants to go to the lab for morphine. Bill insists on accompanying her. Sarah and John apologize to each other for their past issues. This exchange was so great because while Sarah and John argued, it never got nasty. They were able to be adults and decide they were both wrong. They communicated. On their way out, John says he'll stay behind to watch after Miguel. But if they weren't back in half an hour, he'd come look for them. Remember that thruple theory? He doesn't just say that to Sarah, he says it to Bill too. Bill even winks at John when John emphasizes the half hour to him. Bill and Sarah make their way to the lab. Sarah goes searching for medical supplies while Bill wanders around a bit. He rewinds the tape player that was on a desk. The tape begins to play a disturbing track of Logan experimenting on a zombie. Sarah and Bill also discover the severed head of one of the soldiers that had just died, connected to wires and still able to move. Sarah smashes the tape and goes to shoot the head before she's stopped by Bill, who reminds her that Rhodes will hear. They exit the lab and spot Logan sneaking into the room behind him. Logan sets a bucket down, greeting Bub. Bub has on a pair of headphones, which Logan goes to fix. Bub grabs him and seems like he's going to bite Logan, but he doesn't. He lets Logan adjust the headphones so that they're sitting properly. He recognizes that Logan is a friend, not food. Logan has Bub watch him turn on the tape player and teaches Bub to do it himself. He rewards Bub with meat from the bucket. Sarah realizes just where he got that meat and turns away only to be grabbed by Rhodes. Rhodes grabs Logan and wants to know what he's feeding Bub. They discover what remains of 2 soldiers' bodies. Logan tries to defend his actions to no avail. Rhodes shoots him. Fisher runs in before he's caught by Steele. Rhodes yells at his men to confiscate all their weapons. He doesn't want the scientists to be able to defend themselves. Rhodes grabs Sarah's face and begins to yell about his men being in the fridge. He's clearly upset by the disrespect of his men's bodies. It's justifiable, but considering Rhodes' constant power trip, it's hard to sympathize with him. It seems he's more upset by having lost control of the situation, of his men's bodies, than the act itself. Half an hour goes past, so John exits the trailer to search for Sarah and Bill. After they are disarmed, the men lead the trio back to their trailer. John catches sight of them as they're being let in. He aims his weapon at Rhodes, and Rhodes is holding one up to Fisher's head. Rhodes informs John of Logan's demise and has another soldier, Torres, disarm him. Rhodes orders John to operate the helicopter and fly them out. Rhodes is racist while he does this because that's definitely how to get someone to do what you want. John refuses as they would leave Sarah, Bill, and Fisher behind. Rhodes promptly shoots Fisher in the head. Rhodes orders Steele and Rickles to put Sarah and Bill in the wooden corral, much to John's horror. He agrees to fly Rhodes out if he frees Bill and Sarah. Rhodes opens the doors to the other side of the corral, giving the zombies an opening if they get close. John tells Rhodes that he won't fly if Rhodes kills them, that he'd rather die first. John isn't willing to go on without Sarah and Bill. Rhodes calls John another racist term and orders Steele to beat him until he obeys. As this is going on, Bill grabs a loose 2x4 and uses it to help him and Sarah flee the zombies. Steele beats John, who still refuses to fly, when they hear the sound of the elevator opening. Steele and Rickles leave to check out the noise. John waits for the right moment and knocks out Torres. He tackles Rhodes, knocking him out. He contemplates shooting Rhodes, but chooses to just steal his and Torres' weapon instead. John goes in search of Sarah and Bill. As all the commotion was going on, Miguel slipped away and went topside. Steele and Rickles arrive trying to figure out how to bring the elevator back down, as the control is above with Miguel. Miguel had torn the wiring out of the elevator, making it impossible for Steele to fix, much to both his and Rickles' dismay. Miguel makes his way to a gated fence that's holding back a horde of zombies. He unlocks the gate and runs back to the elevator. He bites down on his necklaces to muffle his screams as he allows the zombies to eat him. Rhodes comes to and races with Torres to the elevator. The men inform him of what Miguel has done, throwing out more racism because of course they do. And Rhodes seethes. Miguel, mid-feeding, presses the button to bring the elevator down. The men flee as they see the zombies coming for them. Rhodes leaves his men behind, taking the motorized cart to himself. Bub figures his way out of his chains and exits the room, presumably in search of Logan. He finds him and tries to show him the chain. He's trying to show Logan the new skill he learned. When he realizes Logan is dead, he shows genuine anger and anguish. He sees the guns on the floor, the ones confiscated from Bill, Sarah, and Fisher, and picks one up. Zombies are all over the underground bunker. The ones that came from topside are roaming. The wooden corral was never closed, so those zombies are pouring in. Torres and Rickles attempt to flee, but both are torn to shreds by zombies. Steele manages to make it to a doorway, which Rhodes had selfishly locked behind him. Steele shoots the door open, allowing the zombies to enter as he flees. He encounters Bub in the hallway, who attempts to shoot him. Steele runs into a room to escape and is about to shoot Bub through the door glass when he's attacked by zombies and bitten. Refusing to allow himself to be eaten alive or turned into a zombie, Steele shoots himself in the head. Bill and Sarah encounter and get past several zombies in the tunnels. They work well together, fending the zombies off of each other, working as a team. John is dealing with similar issues. He shows off his marksman skills and takes out a couple zombies. They eventually meet up, John providing machine guns to Bill and Sarah. The three shoot the zombies together, making a path so they can continue their way through the tunnels. The trio begin to climb a ladder to get topside, hoping to make a run for the helicopter. Two zombies attempt to attack John on his way up the ladder. John is able to shoot one, but runs out of bullets. Bill shoots the other. He tells John that he's needed to fly them to the Promised Land. This is obviously a biblical reference, but think about that. The Promised Land. John has been hyping Sarah and Bill up about living the rest of their days on an island and starting a family. Bill wants this too. Bill is down for the throuple. Rhodes continues to run through the halls, desperately trying to escape the zombies. He encounters Bub and quickly goes to load his weapon. He's not fast enough, as Bub shoots him first in the shoulder. Rhodes attempts to flee, but Bub keeps shooting at him. Bub gets Rhodes in his side, and he falls to the ground. Rhodes isn't ready to give up that easily. He keeps trying to get away, standing and making it to a door. He opens it, and behind it are a horde of zombies. He screams and attempts to run away, but is shot in the gut by Bub. The zombies overtake Rhodes and begin to eat him. Bub gives Rhodes a salute, his own little zombie way of saying "fuck you." Rhodes dies, telling the zombies to choke on his flesh. The three make their way up outside of the fenced-in area housing the helicopter. Sarah attempts to quickly unlock the gate so that they can run to the chopper, a large horde of zombies not too far from it. John hopes the helicopter has gas. The gate is unlocked and they make a run for it. The zombies are stumbling ever closer. Sarah opens the door to the helicopter to get in when she's grabbed by a zombie. All is lost. Just kidding! That last bit was a dream. Sarah awakens from her nightmare on a blanket on the beach. She sits up and sees John and Bill further down. John is fishing while Bill sits and throws things, possibly scraps, to the birds flying above him. Sarah looks on at them, and it almost seems like she may be smiling. They're all there, on the island, safe from harm and together. John delivered on the Promised Lands. Sarah removes her calendar from her bag and crosses off yet another day. Alright, scholars, that was a wild ride, so let's get into why exactly this lecture is titled the way that it is. I, first and foremost, want to establish exactly what I mean by evil. The evil present in this film is not the zombies, though they are an obvious obstacle. No, the evil of Day of the Dead is more well known by the average person. The real evil of Day of the Dead was racism, sexism, toxic masculinity, egomania, lack of cooperation, and who else but the United States military. The army men, particularly Steele, Rickles, and Rhodes, are racist towards Miguel and John. Miguel is repeatedly referred to as a spick, while John is called a jungle bunny. There is blatant sexism towards Sarah, as she isn't taken seriously by the men. Steele doubts her capabilities toward wrangling zombies. Rhodes constantly makes sexual statements towards her, treating her like an object. Miguel is abusive towards Sarah, blaming her for his insecurities and the other men's actions. This ties into toxic masculinity as well. Miguel is not able to handle the apocalypse. It is completely valid. The world has come to an end and he's spending his entire time worrying about being eaten. When he's not worrying about that, he's worried about not showing weakness in front of the other men, as they'll taunt him. Men attacking other men for showing any form of weakness is toxic masculinity. Miguel tries to prove his masculinity in ways that puts others in danger. When Sarah tries to sedate him, he physically assaults her before then crying, which is, intentional or not, emotional manipulation. He won't concede to taking a break. This is not helped by Rhodes refusing to give him one. Rhodes' power trip throughout this entire film causes most of the problems the group encounters. He refuses to work with the scientists, viewing himself as superior to everyone. He insists on being on top and is willing to kill anyone that tries to challenge his authority. Logan challenges Rhodes' authority when he is discovered feeding the dead army men to the zombies. This is also an example of a lack of cooperation. Logan should have at least tried to discuss using the dead army personnel for the zombies, but he doesn't. So Rhodes feels betrayed upon finding out his men were turned into food. All of this could not have been possible, though, without the helpful guiding hand of the US military. The US military has a background of not only exhibiting these behaviors, with colonization and imperialism being a thing, but also deciding for everyone that they will be in charge. The military has, historically, gone into situations and completely taken over, disregarding what the people involved, the local population, want. While in this instance the army was asked to help, often they are not and will try to intervene in matters that are none of their business for the possible gain of the United States. While the army was asked to help the scientists, they weren't asked to rule over them and boss them around. Rhodes is a shining example of the entitlement the United States military has had, a human representation of its oppression. So, how do we defeat evil, scholars? Well, it's so easy. It's just as the title says. Communication, empathy, love. These things can defeat evil. Originally, John, Bill, and Sarah had conflict because they weren't discussing their feelings about their situations. When they did finally communicate, they did so without being uncivilized to each other. Sarah was visibly heated, yes, but she did not raise her voice or disrespect John and Bill's home. They talk through their problems, they talk about potential futures, and they work together to escape their situation. The three have empathy for each other and the other people in the tunnels. They all understand the strain they're all under and are sympathetic to each other's personal struggles. The biggest thing, the most powerful weapon against evil that John, Sarah, Bill, and even Bub had was love. Bub is able to defeat the evil that is Rhodes because he loves Logan and is upset that Logan is dead. John and Bill clearly love each other. They're rarely seen apart, the only time being when Bill is with Sarah, and live together in a cozy trailer. The addition of Sarah doesn't divide them. John is clearly infatuated with Sarah. He rushes to defend her at the drop of a hat, and outright invites her to join him and Bill on a deserted island. Bill makes sure to keep Sarah safe, and they work well together even without John around. When Miguel is bitten and the three catch him, they don't kill him, they try to save him. They risk getting shot to save him because of love. John gets beaten up by Steele for refusing to fly unless Sarah and Bill are safe. Why? Because of love. Their love, anyone's love, and instead kills himself to doom them all. Sarah, John, and Bill all accept the love they have for each other. Where does that get them? Safely away from danger, together on an island. Love saved them. Love protected them. Love defeated the evil. That's all I have for you today, scholars. As I mentioned on the rain delay, Hi, That's Scary will be going on a 2-week hiatus and will be resuming class on November 16th. We look forward to meeting with you again. Until then, stay scary.